Here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we have 7 core values that help to guide everything we do in our spiritual practice. We like to focus on one of those core values each week. The 7 core values are love, healing, oneness, abundance, spiritual growth, service, and diversity. And this week we're focusing on abundance. As I was thinking about abundance in relation to the core value, I was reminded of a conversation that I had a few months ago with a dear friend of mine who was telling me about a trip to Costco. If you don't have a Costco membership, what you don't know is that you can go intending to pick up 2 or 3 things and leave with a $500 cart. And yes, you know. And she was telling me how she had gone to Costco and just got whatever she needed, put it in the cart, went to check out, had no concerns at all about what that final tab was going to be. And she looked at me and she said, "Ben, my God, I'm rich." Because she could check out at Costco and not worry about it, right? I know other people who couldn't even do that, and yet they still say they are rich and they have the experience of being rich. How easy is it to get lost in our own definition of what abundance is and then scoff at somebody else's experience saying, "Who cares that you can check out at Costco? If you don't have $10 million, you're not rich." Or something even greater. And yet in any way that we disparage somebody else's experience of abundance, we cut ourselves off from our own, regardless of what our own level is, what our criteria are that we have made up. Because ultimately, abundance is not anything tied to anything in the physical world. It's how we relate to everything that's around us. So rather than disparaging somebody else in their experience or saying, "How could you possibly think that you can't be rich unless you have $300 million in the bank? There's no way you can make that. I'm going to feel rich right where I am. What's wrong with you?" Or, "What do you mean you're rich? You can't do these things that I can do. You've got a ways to go yet." Let's instead applaud the part of us in the part of everybody else who is experiencing abundance, and doing so align ourselves with our own definition and our own experience of it. We also know, of course, that abundance is far more than just money. Our dear friend Rumi reminds us this key about abundance. He says, "Giving thanks for abundance is sweeter than the abundance itself." So as we applaud the abundance all around us, in the ocean, in the sky, in the trees, and the iguanas falling out of the trees, which is a crazy experience for somebody from the Midwest, as we applaud, why don't they stay up there? If we applaud the abundance of everybody else, we'll get that sweetness and have an abundant experience beyond our wildest imaginings. Thank you for practicing with me this week, friends. So here we are, January 10th. We are 10 days into the new year and into our focus on spiritual fitness. Dr. Chris gave us all an assignment last week. Anybody remember what that was? No? It's okay. 3 simple things. It's okay if you missed last week. You can start this week. We're going to make it easy for you. 3 simple practices. 1, get out in nature. 2, take some time to listen to music that inspires you and uplifts you. Already got that one taken care of for the day. 3, spend some time sitting in the silence. Doing these 3 simple things will help us to connect more to our spiritual centers, to be more spiritually fit to help us through the year. And again, we want to make it easy for you. So Wednesday nights in January, we've got a very simple way for you to get all 3 done in one fell swoop. You come here because Spirit Space is back with Chloe Ravel for the month, doing her sound healing. Show up early, take your shoes off, stand in the grass to connect with nature. Come in here, sit still in the silence, and let the music of Chloe help to uplift you and get all 3 out on Wednesday, and then the rest of the week is up to you, right? So come join us, engage deeply in this spiritual practice. Today we're looking at motivation. It's interesting that anytime we start something new, whether it's a new year, a new job, new relationship, new hobby, motivation tends to be really easy. The newness helps to uplift it and keep it high, but over time, it tends to flag, right? We're part of a race consciousness that's really good at letting motivation wane and stopping pursuing the things that are truly heartfelt desires. So today we want to look at how we can recharge that motivation when it starts to leave us. As I was contemplating this today, I noticed first that there are really two primary drivers of motivation: inspiration and desperation. We certainly don't want to recharge that desperation motivation, right? We only want to recharge the inspiration kind. And yet what we typically do with an experience of desperation is we tend to ignore it. We shame ourselves about it. We shove it down. We don't acknowledge it, rather than using that to discharge that energy in pushing us from desperation to inspiration. Oftentimes it seems that that's a really big gap, but friends, it's not that far from discharging our desperation into finding our inspiration. But we can only do that if we are willing to take a step back, own the fact that we've got a little bit of that energy going on in our experience, and consciously using it. So here's a story for you from my own life about using that desperation to drive us to inspiration. I was raised in New Thought. CSL is part of the New Thought community. Unity is one of the other main New Thought philosophies in the world. And I was raised in the Midwest in Unity. And when I was a young boy, it was great. I was learning all about oneness and love and connection and abundance and manifestation and the perfect presence of the Christ in each and every one of us. And it was awesome. I loved it. Then around about the age of 8, I started to become more aware with a more traditional religious view that was telling 8-year-old Ben that because he believed Christ was everywhere and in everyone, he was going to burn for eternity. What does an 8-year-old do with that information? Well, I decided to throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of the sink right after that, too. I was done with spirituality, ever, permanently, no more. I grew up, life did what it did, it went downhill until I found myself, for some reason, having convinced myself that I was completely unlovable. Anybody know that feeling? Yeah? I had hoped that I would win the lottery because I thought maybe if I had $300 million, I could convince somebody to pretend to love me for my money. And I thought maybe 300 million would be enough. Not a good place, right? So that desperation said I got to make a change, and the last thing I could possibly try was going back to spirituality. So I walked into Spirit Work Center for Spiritual Living, which is in Burbank, California, where I lived at the time. It was walking distance from my house. Talk was good. I went down into the fellowship area and stood unintentionally, but really intentionally, in the darkest corner of the darkest hallway, hiding from everybody, hoping that somebody would somehow find me and say hello. And of course, nobody did. And so I decided if the next person to pass didn't stop and say hi, I was leaving and never coming back again. And friends, it was just like out of a movie. Somebody walked straight past me. About 10 feet past me, they stopped, paused for literally about a second and a half, turned on their heels, and came back and said hello. So I knew I could come back one more time. I went back the next Sunday, and I felt just a little bit better. I went back the next Sunday, and I felt just a little bit better. And friends, that's all it takes to get from desperation to inspiration, is that little bit better. Because in that little bit better, I thought, if I can feel a little bit better, then maybe the next time I'll feel a little bit better again. And the next time, maybe I can feel better instead of just a little bit better. And then maybe I can get into a class and really engage in my spirituality and actually get to the place where I can love myself. Oh my God, I might be able to actually love myself again, right? It's so subtle to go from desperation to having that little bit better that we can grab onto inspiration and be pulled by that vision instead. Once we get to that place, feeling a little bit better, whether it's in relationship, in finances, in health, whatever it might be, once we've got that inspiration, we want to make sure that it stays high. So even before we look at how to recharge our motivation, inspiration, let's look at how we can help to keep it from flagging in the first place. There's two primary things that help to undercut that inspiration. The first one of those to look at today is failure. Anytime we fail at something, it tends to undercut that drive, right? If we're not careful, we'll start to think, well, maybe I didn't really want that thing after all, which is really just us covering up for the fact that maybe underneath that we believe we don't really deserve that thing that we say we really want. So we want to find a way to stay out of failure, and it's actually really simple. Typically speaking, when we have something we want to accomplish in our lives, a goal we want to achieve, a manifestation we want to have, We set specific intentions off of the actions that we're going to take, right? I'm going to take this action and get this result, this outcome from my action. And if I don't get that specific outcome, then I've failed, right? That's a failure. Well, what if we simply intended to create an outcome? Not a specific outcome, but just an outcome. If we did that, every single action we take is guaranteed to produce an outcome, whether or not it's even something at all. If we take an action and it doesn't produce anything, that in itself is an outcome. So if my intention is to take an action towards my desire and produce an outcome by that action, and then use the information that I get from that outcome to drive my next action and my next and my next, then I'm never going to fail, because I'm guaranteed to produce an outcome with anything that I do. Thomas Edison had a really phenomenal way of looking at life and at failure. He was interviewed by the New York Times, and they were asking him about having failed so many times and how he felt about that. And his response was, "I have not failed 10,000 times. I have successfully found 10,000 ways that will not work." Right? The exact same physical world experience. And yet the newspaper was saying, "You're a failure," and he said, "Buddy, I've succeeded 10,000 times. What have you done today? And let me keep my motivation high and rising, because I can point to these 10,000 successes I've had and how much closer that moves me to my desired result." Right? So we simply shift what our intention is behind the actions that we take, and we will stay out of failure and not have that experience undercut our motivation. The other thing that we tend to do when we're engaging in a new endeavor, a new desire to create or manifest something, is we don't stop and recognize that really we have done a good job of building a lack of trust with ourselves. It's not intentional. Again, it's part of something the human race is so good at. I am going to get physically fit starting next week. Next week rolls around. I didn't sleep so good. We'll start Tuesday. Tuesday rolls around. Well, really, there's this birthday party on Thursday, and I'm going to eat bad there, so I might as well just continue to eat bad until next Monday. Right? We have these desires, and instead of actually taking action and following through on them, we let ourselves down again and again and again and again, and then we try to do something new, to take these huge, massive leaps in the direction of our desire, and we have not built that trust with ourselves, and we haven't built any momentum to make a gigantic leap, and so we tend to then fail again and undercut our momentum, our inspiration. Instead of starting small, what is the thing that I can do? The one thing I can do right now to move me one tiny step closer to my desired outcome. And then when I take that one tiny step, look, I can rely on myself. I'm reliable, I'll follow through, and I've made this one tiny step, so then I take the next tiny step. It's an easy step to take. It doesn't take a lot of effort or energy from me. It's something I can do right now. It's very easy. I do it again and again and again, and over time, I have built a trust with myself. I can trust myself now to take the bigger steps because I've taken all of these little steps successfully, one after another, continually following through with my intention for myself, and then building the momentum so that I can get those bigger and bigger steps, rather than attempting right away to take the huge leap that's going to get me to my desired goal within 2 or 3 steps, when I don't have the trust with myself to know that I'm going to follow through and I haven't yet built that momentum. If we start small, build trust, build momentum, we'll get there much faster than if we try to get there in 2 or 3 big leaps. Tony Robbins has a great way of ensuring that he starts with those small steps to build that trust and momentum. Tony says, we should never leave the scene of a decision without taking a specific action toward its realization. And so we want to make things easy. Here is that specific action for you. Make a decision, write it down. First step, very simple, very easy, something you can do that takes you one little bit in the direction of your dream, write it down. Second step, place that somewhere where you will see it automatically all the time. Don't put it in a file because you're not really going to go open that file and look at it, even though we have good intentions to. Put it on the fridge, put it on the dashboard of your car, somewhere that you will see it every single day automatically. You have now taken 2 little steps toward the outcome that you're seeking, building that trust, building that momentum, and now every single time you see that written down goal, you will be reminded that there's some little step that you can take today, right now in this moment, to move you a little bit closer and build that momentum and that trust with yourself. We can stay out of undercutting our own inspiration and motivation by simply reframing our intentions to produce a result rather than a specific result, so we don't engage in failure, and making sure we start small and build that momentum. Even if we do that, even if we're really good at that, again, we're part of human consciousness, and human consciousness is good at letting motivation wane. So even doing all of these things, we're going to find times when our motivation flags. So we want to be able to recharge it. The really simple thing that helps to recharge motivation is our why. Why is it that we want the thing that we want? Jim Rohn, who is one of the founders of the motivational movement, really says, if the why is powerful, the how is easy. Now, we need to take a moment to talk about the how part, because what Jim didn't know necessarily from his perspective is that the how is not my business. The how is up to Spirit. My business is the what, the why, and what I can do to align myself, but not the how of the manifestation of the thing that I want. Perfect example for you. My wife Sherry and I have been in town for 11 days. An offer was accepted on a house yesterday. Took 10 days for us to find and buy a house. Thank you, you're stuck with me. If I had to do the hows of buying that house, the person who is selling the house because she and several of her friends want to move to the specific community together. If the how was my responsibility, I would have had to have known prior to ever getting the opportunity to come down here who this woman and her friends were, that this new development was coming up, and would have to go talk to them to convince them that they all wanted to sell their houses and move into this new development in the right and perfect timing for me to show up and see the house. The only thing I know that can do that is the living presence almighty that governs the universe. I can't do that. But if I am stuck in trying to figure out the hows, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm dead in the water before I even start. The how that we're looking at here is how I can align myself with my desired outcome, not how I can force or create that desired outcome from the infinite presence of the universe everywhere. So here's the thing. What do? How do I align myself with a house in 10 days? Well, I start out by doing a living vision. What is the perfect house that I want? You remember that write it down step? Write it down. Get an agent. Look online every day at houses, at horrible, awful houses, until you find a house that's actually decent, right? My God. Go out and look at houses. Sit every day with my wife in visualization, 5 minutes a day, visualizing what it will feel like to be in that house, what's going to happen in that house, see our cat lounging in the sun, out in the grass, see friends and family and love all around us, even though we don't know what that house looks like yet, but creating the experience within our visualization beforehand to draw it to us. These are the ways that I can align myself with my desire. These are the hows that become easy when our why is strong enough. So what is your why for the things you're trying to create? Here's another great example for you. I am getting back into exercise. Before COVID, 5 days a week, an hour a day, my wife and I would exercise. It was fantastic. We had a great habit pattern built up. But then COVID, and it wasn't really a wise idea to be crowded in gyms anymore, so we stopped doing that. And then winter came, so it was really easy to make the excuse of it being too cold to go exercise outside. We got out of the habit. I want it back. What's my why? Well, a very simple and obvious one is I am in southern Florida. I can go to a beach that's 3 miles away every single day of the year if I want to, and I want to look good and feel good on the beach, right? That's a very physical world, ego-based why. It's not a bad thing that it's a physical world, ego-based why. It's a good thing. It's part of a toolbox of whys that will help to keep me inspired. The question is that going to get me up at 5 a.m. to make sure I exercise every morning? And for me, I can tell you the answer is no. If I haven't slept well the night before and that alarm goes off and I think, Beach body in 6 or 7 months or another hour of sleep? I'm doing another hour of sleep, right? I need a why that is more inspiring and more powerful than that. So for me, if I look to service and spirit, I can find a really powerful why. So instead, my why is this. When I exercise every day, I have more energy. When I have more energy, I'm more able to be present to all of the richness life has to offer to me. I am more able to hold sacred space here when I am with you to support all of you in realizing your dreams. I am better able to be of service to the people around me, to spirit, to my life, and fulfill the mission that I have come here to complete, which is to be present to the magnificence of life all around me. And if I am tired and out of energy and flagging, I cannot do that. But if I exercise every day, and I have that extra energy, that vim, that vigor, that excitement, that enthusiasm for life because I am so healthy, then by God, I'm going to be able to fill that service-based why far more powerfully, and that will get me up every day. So if you find your inspiration flagging, and you look to your why, and it's not recharging for you, friends, think about a why that brings service to others into the experience. And see if that helps to recharge your motivation. You know, the last thing that I want to share with you today about this is it's really easy for us to see the gap between where we are and where we want to be and get discouraged. Whatever it is that we're trying to create in our lives, obviously there's a gap from where we are to where that thing is or that experience is. And for me, sometimes it seems that the more heartfelt that desire, the bigger and more insurmountable the gap seems to be. And if we focus on that gap, we're going to lose all motivation. But our dear friend Rumi, once again, has a great reminder for us. He says, what you are seeking is seeking you. I take one little baby step toward what I want. What I want takes one little baby step toward me. I slowly build trust and momentum. What I want builds momentum back towards me. Friends, we only have to go halfway because life meets us at our point of action and engagement with it. So whatever it is that you are desiring to create in your life in this year, whatever love, whatever joy, whatever new opportunity, whatever new experience, know that you only have to get halfway there before it arrives. Know that it's not your business to figure out the how of it. It's your business to align yourself with that desire, and that by simply staying out of failure, by simply wanting to create a result, period, and knowing that you're guaranteed to do so, building that momentum, and then meeting life at the point of your action. This is going to be an amazing year. And it is my honor and privilege to explore it with you, to get spiritually fit together, and to see what the possibilities are together. Thank you so much for being here, for being part of the abundance of this community. Namaste. Thank you. We have an opportunity now to engage together in some spiritual practice of meditation and a little bit of visualization. So I invite you to find yourselves comfortable in your chair, allow your eyes to close, and let the music bring you into that stilled, centered space where only light lives.
I breathe out, I breathe in, I am still, I go within. When I quiet my mind, in the stillness I find. Spirit meets me there. Spirit meets me there.
We often proclaim that we are light workers. And what that means is that we, as emanations of infinite love and light, are able to place that holy light of living love wherever we perceive it is necessary. And so in practice together, we can visualize in this space, in Centers for Spiritual Living in Fort Lauderdale, a brilliant column of light, anchored deep into the core of the earth, extending out into the cosmos, filling, surrounding this space, uplifting, clearing, cleansing the energy of each and every one of us, and serving as a beacon to everyone who is looking for a new way of being, a new understanding of themselves as the divine, a new experience of loving, of community, of diversity, of connection, of abundance, of joy, of grace, of peace, of all of the things that are offered here. We can send this light, we can plant this light, place this light anywhere in the world, with anybody, with any place, with any circumstance or situation that we feel needs a little extra loving, a little extra healing, a little extra up-leveling. And so as we spend time in the silence today, allow that infinite wisdom of your divine nature to guide you in envisioning the light wherever you feel it is needed today. Any place, any situation, any person that needs the loving that is present everywhere. Let's spend some time in the silence as light workers. Grateful for the opportunity to allow the light of living love to express through me, through my consciousness into the world, to bring a blessing for the highest good of all concerned. That wherever it is, love is, peace is, healing is, wholeness is, the divine presence is, and all is well. Taking a deep breath to bring ourselves back into our bodies, back into this space. We simply allow it to be, knowing that it is done. When you are ready, allow your eyes to open and be here now. We have affirmation cards on the seat for you. The thing about these cards is that you can take them home and work with them all week. You know, those little tiny steps to help build momentum in the things that you want to achieve in your life? We already wrote it down. Now you just got to stick it where you can see it every day and say it. So let's say the affirmation together. Are you ready? I am ready, willing, and able to step into my power. And so we step into that power now by turning our attention within to that place where there is only one life, one and one power. This limitless wisdom, this limitless love that births the universe, that keeps planets in orbit, is right here and right now, fully focused on me, on you, on every single one of the divine expressions of life that it is. Knowing that that entire universal presence of good is with and for us, we know that as we go forward into this week, all manner of good, of joy, of abundance, of peace, of blessing finds its way to us. It hunts us down and tackles us in a joyful expression of life. We know that for hats off to our heroes, for all of the heroes that are serving us, that are keeping our lives online and working and going in the midst of that pandemic, that they have the support they need, they have the loving, the light, the intention, the energy that they need to do their sacred holy work. We bless, hats off to Heroes, the events here, to help support them, knowing that it does more good than we can possibly imagine. And we know that whatever it is that we are seeking to accomplish in our lives, to experience in greater love and greater joy, any true desire of our heart, the universal presence of life, love, and wisdom itself says, yes, yes, my beloved, this or something even better is already yours. I've got you, and you've got no idea the good that is on its way to you right now. And so we open to receive, and in the receiving, allow gratitude to guide the way. In praise and thanks and thanksgiving for the moment now, for the good that already is, we let it be. And so it is, and so I am. Thank you, friends, for joining us this week. Have a phenomenal week. And check us back next week right here. Dr. Chris is back in the house next week. We'll see you then. Have a great week.
Thank you for watching, and thanks for supporting CSL. If you'd like to know more about us, check us out on our website or social media. Blessings.